Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while, but I was out of the country for about 3 weeks. Around Christmas time, I went to visit my girlfriend in Spain for the holidays, so that's why I wasn't really doing any videos. But yeah, I am now back in Canada, and ready to do some more videos. Excited about doing some stuff around cards, so expect um, more videos, maybe a couple a week, moving forward for at least the foreseeable future. But the first thing that we're going to be talking about here today is 1939 just dropped the newest cards roadmap. So this is something that they typically do at the start of each year, where they basically just announce like the very broad things to expect for the year. So the first video back is going to be pretty short. We're going to be talking about the roadmap, and stick around because we're going to go through the roadmap really quickly, and then I'm going to be talking about more the future of cards esports, and where that is headed. And it's probably going to get quite heated. So if you like to hear me yell, you have that to look forward to. But yeah, so let's first jump into the roadmap and start at least slightly more positive before we bring it down. So we see the Dear Cards 2024 explaining the roadmap. It is a high-level overview of the milestones and important events for cards, and it contains only the highest level of features. It does not contain small updates or patches, since they can't schedule those necessarily. Seasonal in-game events, because those are up to change. It does not contain the esports calendar, ongoing balance changes, or general cards refinements, although they are part of our work to continuously improve cards. So obviously, if something's not on the roadmap, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And also, it is a living roadmap, so it is, it is possible that things will change. So let's take a look at this roadmap and see what it is to expect. And, well, this is it. This is the entire roadmap, and this is basically what we do already. So, in March, we can expect a spring release, and this is when they are going to. This is basically what they've done the last 2 years, where they, they'll bring back a few cards from Classic mode, and they'll change them around, and that will usually come out alongside like a balance patch. So, those cards typically, there's a few of them that are on the higher power level, and maybe it's enough to shake up the meta. Push a tier 2 deck into tier 1, or make a new tier 1 deck if there's a really strong card. But, it's like maybe 10, 15 cards. And then the summer expansion, which, is going to be the summer expansion. And then in fall, they'll do the same thing, where they'll bring back some cards out of Classic and change them around. And then there's going to be the winter expansion and the World Championship. So this is literally just what happened last year. And like it's good to know that they're still planning on continuing that moving forward, but this gives us literally no information. Like, if you ask me what times things were going to happen next year, I would say, well, unless they change things drastically, it's going to be exactly this. Like, anybody could have told you this. But again, it's still good to know. And then it says, throughout the year, you can also expect card balance updates, regular cash prize and non-cash esports events, history-aligned in-game events, skirmish events, and more. And then you can also expect cards balance updates, in-game tournament improvements, iterations on other game modes like Draft and Classic. So I know that's going to be an interesting one for a few people, because Draft has been incredibly stagnant for basically since they introduced it. And Classic mode has basically just, it existed to stop people from complaining about losing the ability to play their cards, but nobody actually plays it outside of, like, Baron, because it's not that good. Like, if you want to play a Classic mode deck, or, there's cards or a specific deck that you really enjoy that got rotated so you can't play it on ladder anymore, maybe you go into Classic mode and play that for, like, 5 to 10 games, but it has long queue times, there's no ladder, it's basically just playing casual. Personally, I don't like playing it. Not because I don't like playing Classic, but it's just, you're seeing the same players over and over. There's very little deck variety, and there's no way to track anything. You're just playing for your own enjoyment, and it's frankly not that enjoyable personally, so I'm excited to see, any improvement on that. Literally just slap the leaderboard on it. Don't make the leaderboard worth anything. Just slap a leaderboard. Don't even have it reset. Literally just slap like a leaderboard and let people just grind it out, and it will drastically improve the classic experience. UI enhancements outside the battle scene, continuations of esports with regular cash prize tournaments, and plenty of quality of life improvements and other goodies. So, we see here it says regular cash prize and non-cash esports events. And just the way that this sentence is written, you could say, like, if there's 2 cash prize tournaments and then, like, 50 non-cash esports events, you could say regular cash prize and non-cash esports events. If you wanted to. Because what is regular is the esports events, some of which are cash prize, some of which are non-cash. However, down here they say regular cash prize tournaments. So this says that the cash prize tournaments will be regular in 2025. Interesting. And then we have, major expansions introducing a large set of new cards, exciting mechanics, and occasionally new allies, although not guaranteed. Yeah, I would definitely. Maybe we get 1 new ally. I would be shocked if we got 2. And then we have the major releases, so this is where they just, like, bring in new cards. And the World Championship 2025. Details about the qualification process will become available in the upcoming months. Prepare for epic battles as you can compete for the ultimate title of Cards World Champion. Look, I've talked a lot about how I think the format for the 2024 Cards World Championship was the worst one they have ever had since 2019. And a huge downgrade in the experience for everybody involved. So hopefully they have a year to change that. And it's not surprising that they don't give out details. They usually don't give out details until like July or August. So that's not particularly surprising. And then looking ahead, beyond these steps, you can expect regular card balance changes, improvements in game tournaments, iterations on popular game modes, UI enhancement, ongoing esports events with cash prize tournaments. So this one goes back to the vague language of how often are the tournaments going to be cash prize. And then a host of quality of life updates. And then we'll introduce smaller features, improvements, and events to keep cards fresh and engaging throughout the year. Stay tuned for more. So yeah, they repeat themselves a lot, and they use different language in all of the times they repeat themselves. So I have no idea. This is like a bizarre article. To be frank, the roadmap itself tells us absolutely nothing, and then everything else that is written is just reiterating the same things in different ways, and it is occasionally contradictory. So yeah, that's the roadmap, and there's some interesting things on here. In particular, I hope the quality of life updates includes something like adding an opt-out feature, or just fully removing the deck copying, the deck stealing feature. I think a lot of people have sort of forgotten about that, or just learned to live with it, but that's still a terrible feature, and it actively makes me enjoy the game less. And I know that is true for hundreds of other players, if not thousands of other players. And, they said we will listen to feedback and reiterate on this feature, and 99% of the feedback was negative, and then they haven't touched it. So let's all not forget about the deck stealing feature. That's just a complete aside. But overall, there's some interesting things here. But what I want to specifically talk about is esports. So I have been waiting to do the only video I was prepared to do while on my Christmas vacation was the video talking about the new tournament format. I brought my mic. I was prepared to record that video whenever they announced the new tournament format, and they never did. And then I came back and I was like, okay, well, surely they're back in the office now. They'll announce the tournament format any day now, and then that will be my first video back. And then they didn't. And today I was like, you know what? I'll record the Elites tier list video. Don't worry, I'm still making those. And then, I'm getting ready to do that. And then they drop the roadmap. So this gives me an opportunity to now talk about the esports. And when they finally announce the new format, we'll have a separate video talking about that. But I want to talk about what we know. And I'm sure most of you, basically almost all of you, outside of like the select group of people, have no idea what I'm talking about. Some of you probably don't even know that the format's changing. You might be like, well, what do you mean? Just like, OCC? Like, is the tournament, like, is the qualification method for OCC changing? Is it going back to top 6? Is it going back to top 12? Um, like, are they fully removing the pre-qualified spots and everybody has to play in through a big qualifier? Like, what's going on with the OCCs? Um, and I have to tell you, the OCCs are dead. So let's take a look through a series of screenshots from Discord conversations to sort of go over the timeline, because I'm sure most of you have no idea what I'm talking about, so I'm just going to catch you all up very quickly. So the first hint that something was wrong came in September, where they announced the schedule for the remaining section of the esports calendar. So from September to December, what was happening, and that included the October OCC, the November OCC, and the World Championship. And immediately everyone was like, well, what about the December OCC? And Mark, so the person on screen right now, this Discord message was sent by 983 Mark. He is the tournament admin for all most 1939 run cards events. So he doesn't work for 1939, but is a third party tournament admin who has been running the OCCs since I think 2020 or 2021. And Mark dropped the information that there will not be an OCC in December. And most people, their reaction to this was pretty positive. They're like, okay, you know what? The World Championship is happening. There's an expansion dropping. It's the end of the year. People are burnt out. People want vacation. We're just not going to host the tournament. That's fine. That's whatever. The December OCC is usually a cloud fiesta with a ton of misplays and just really bad decks because people aren't taking it that seriously. And that's perfectly fine. And most people took this and were just like, okay, that's fine. I took this as a warning sign. And that's not to be like, oh, I know so much more than everyone else, but I've been around in every single OCC. I haven't played in every OCC, but I've been around. And since the very beginning, I played in the first 40 or something, and then I casted most of the ones I didn't play in, and the very few that I didn't cast or play in, I watched as a spectator. So I've been around OCC more so than probably any other player in the entire game. And probably more than anyone else, frankly, because, they were first run by Ollie, and then Ollie left, and then 983 picked them up. So I've been involved in all of the OCCs more than anyone else, and that is why I know there has been 54 consecutive OCCs without a single break. There has been 54 consecutive OCCs since it was first introduced in June 2020. This break in December 2024 was the first time there had not been an OCC. So for people who started playing the game or started following the game competitively in the last month or not month in the last year or 2 years, they might say okay, well, just taking a break for a month, that's whatever. For me, this was this is a very bad sign. Cards Esports, I've had my fair share of complaints, and I think it's in a very downward trajectory before this, but now missing a month, this is a sign of things to come. But that was in September. And then we moved forward to the very end of November. This is November 29th. Everyone realized, you know what, there's no point of playing ladder in November because there's no December OCC to qualify. But towards the end of November, people started to ask, well, should we grind ladder in December to qualify for the January OCC? And most people assumed that, well, OCCs will just continue in January, business as usual. And Mark responded, there's no OCC in January. And this is when the alarm bell started ringing for everybody, because, no OCC in December, that makes sense. There's some reasons to justify not doing an OCC in November. In December. No OCC in January. There's literally no reason not to host an OCC in January unless you are ending the OCCs. So even though there's no explicit message that the OCCs are axed, this is a pretty implicit message that OCCs are axed. And again, Mark is not an employee of 1939. And if he's in discussions with 1939 about what the future formats are going to look like, I'm sure he is NDA'd signed an NDA, and even if he hasn't signed an NDA, it's in his own interest to not piss off 1939. So he just has to give the bare amount of information necessary for people to not waste their entire month. And it's a very good thing that he's telling us, because otherwise people would spend hundreds of hours grinding into the top two to try to qualify for a tournament that then doesn't happen. So yeah, at this sign, we were like, okay, it's something's big going to happen. And then about a week later, people were asking about it. And again, all of this is in the public Cards Esports Discord. This isn't DMs. And here, on the 5th of December, Mark said, I'm saying there will not be OCC anymore, and there will still be some competition things. It will not be as it is now. You'll find out more after the World Championship. So there we get official confirmation that OCCs are dead. So, yeah. OCCs are straight up dead. They are gone. We got 54 of them, and it's a passing of the age. And, you know, changing the format is not an inherently bad thing. They could replace OCCs with a much better system. Because, let's be honest, I had my fair share of issues with OCCs. I'm sure a lot of people had their fair share of issues with OCCs. So it's entirely possible that they just rename it, and they launch it as a brand new thing to be shiny and flashy and new. And it will be an improvement. That's entirely possible. But again, we will hear more information after World Championship, because it's up to 1939 to announce this. It's not up to Mark to announce this. And, well, the World Championship was over a month ago, and we haven't heard anything. And, personally, and I think most people assumed that we would hear an announcement, like, maybe, you know, from 1939, like, at the end of the stream of the World Championship. They congratulate Spoker, and then they announced this is what we're doing moving forward. But, you know, maybe they don't want to take the focus away from the World Championship in that moment, so maybe they release it on the following weekend. Like, on the Monday, they release the announcement, because World Championship happened on a Saturday, Sunday, so maybe they announced it on the Monday. Monday came and went, but maybe they have to write up the article, and they're going to announce it on Friday at the end of the week. And then that week came and went. And 1939 went on their Christmas vacation. And nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. We are now in January, and there's presumably no reason to be grinding the January ladder, but maybe there is. Like, maybe the new format that's replacing the OCC still matters about grinding out your ladder. But should we be grinding in January for the February season? I don't know. Nobody knows, because 1939 hasn't said anything. And then that brings us to today, where Yokel, I'm not sure how you say his name, but he's he is a newer community manager for 1939. And he announced in the Cards announcements, so we're doing the roadmap for the year, and we will change the setup for tournaments and World Championships. So this is the first time anyone at 1939 has acknowledged that this is going to happen. And then he said, considering the number of players and the interest in tournaments, we at Cards feel that we need to increase interest in these events. Now, this could be taken in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways to interpret this. One, you could interpret this as, he says, tournaments and World Championship. Tournaments could refer to in-game tournaments and World Championship, so it's possible that he's not even talking about, like, the cash prize tournaments. But then, I read this and I was like, okay, but are we going to learn any information about this? And the answer is no, because as we looked at the entire roadmap article, there is very little information about this. It just says there will be cash prize tournaments. In fact, verbatim, it says there will be regular cash prize tournaments. And where are they? What do they look like? Because right now, we just don't know. There's zero information about what these are going to look like. And again, it could be that they announce an amazing format that has regular cash prize tournaments. It's open. It's available to everybody. And it rewards the best players. And it's an engaging experience for everybody to play in and to watch as a spectator. It's possible that that happens. I just have zero faith in it. Because right now, 1939 and Cards Esports has been in a downward decline. Honestly, it's picking up speed as a nosedive throughout 2024. And then we hit 2 months with no tournaments, and where is the information on what's going to happen next? And again, you could say, well, they're working out the kinks. But let's go back to the first message. It was known there would be no OCC in December back in September. Did I say September twice? Anyways, back in September. So 3 months ago, they knew this. Not even 4 months ago, they knew this. So for the past 4 months, they've known that they were going to be, for at least the last 4 months, they have known that they are going to be completely overhauling the Cards Esports. You'd think that they would be able to get an article out to tell us what that's going to look like before they went on Christmas vacation. Or at the very least, you'd think that they'd be able to get an article out as soon as they came back from Christmas vacation. They have it cooking, and then they publish it when they all come back and are ready to all hands on deck. But no, we continue to wait, and maybe we get it. Maybe we get it tomorrow. Maybe we get it next week. We are eventually going to get it. They do have to announce it eventually. But I have to say, my honest thoughts on it right now are that I think this is going to suck for the players. I fully expect this to be a way to essentially decrease the amount of money 1939 has to spend on tournaments without axing tournaments altogether, because, it's a lot easier to be like, oh, we're restructuring tournaments in a fun new way that involves us hosting less tournaments, giving out less cash prizes, and paying less money to tournament admins and to casters to run the tournament experience. They don't want to say that, so they're going to say we're doing a fun new restructuring way, and then it is going to turn into something that costs them less money. And you know what? 1939 is a business. They can do whatever they want. They don't owe us tournaments. But as a competitor, as a player, as an enjoyer of the game, it definitely saddens me that this does seem to be the sunsetting of Cards Esports, and it also upsets me that they're not telling us any information about it, and they managed to they bungled a lot of stuff in this game. They bungled the esports scene. They bungled a lot of easy layups from just a practical business point of view. And you know what? Now they're bungling the announcement of them bungling esports. And again, I could be proven entirely wrong, but I'm not holding out my hope on that. So that's all I really have to say about that. But I just want to end out the video. Obviously this is a lot of speculation on my part that I think it's going to suck, but I just want to remember that up here in the roadmap article, they say continuation of esports with regular cash prize tournaments. Let's just keep that quote in mind. And when we see what they announce, because, how do they define regular? We'll have to see, but that is going to be it for me for this video. I thought this was going to be shorter. I still managed to make it like 20 minutes. But let me know what you think about all of this, not just the esports stuff, but the roadmap in general. If there's anything that piqued your interest, like the potential changes to draft and classic mode. And yeah, let me know what you think about the esports changes as well, whether you're a competitor or a spectator, or you're pretty new to cards and you've never really watched anything. And you know what? If you haven't watched any Cards Esports, I would highly recommend. Just go back in the backlog. All of them are on the Cards YouTube channel. And you can go back and watch old tournaments. They're a ton of fun to watch, either the VOD or watch live. They're a ton of fun to participate in. And it's sad to see that it seems very likely that this is going to be the moving towards the death of this in cards. And obviously, even if you don't care about that at all, it's not a great sign for cards as a whole to be axing the competitive scene. Definitely not a good sign for sort of the well-doing of the business. But that is neither here nor there. I will catch all of y'all in the next one, hopefully talking about what these actual changes are. But if not, then we will be looking at the elite tier list. I believe it's Soviets next. And then some good old-fashioned cards gameplay. So with all that, I'll see y'all later.